Imagine standing at the altar, second away from saying I do, when your own stepbrother storms in with a plan years in the making. Jose waited until my wedding day to expose secrets and humiliate me in front of everyone. What started as a joyful ceremony turned into chaos, betrayal, and revenge. He sabotaged everything just to get back at me. This is the wildest family drama I've ever lived through. So, buckle up, because this story sounds like something out of a soap opera, but unfortunately, it happened to me. At 38 I got married last month. It was supposed to be the happiest day of my life, but my stepbrother Jose 45M had other plans. Jose and I never really got along. He always had his chip on his shoulder, like life had cheated him somehow. Our parents married when I was 10 and he was 17, and since then, it was like we were competitors instead of family. I went to college, built a decent business, and generally tried to keep my head down. Jose, on the other hand, had a string of failed jobs, messy relationships, and more than a few bad decisions that the family quietly covered up. The tension between us wasn't usually explosive, it was more like this constant background hum of resentment. But apparently, under the surface, Jose had been nursing a grudge for years. Fast forward to my wedding. We rented this gorgeous old church in the centre of town, the kind with stained glass windows and a bell tower that echoed across the square. My fiancée, well, wife now Carla, looked stunning in her dress. Everyone was buzzing, the music was perfect, and for a moment I thought, wow, everything actually worked out. Enter Jose. I should have known something was up when he texted me 2 days before the wedding. Big day coming. Hope you're ready for surprises. I brushed it off, thinking it was just his weird way of trying to be funny. But standing at the altar, right as the officiant started the vows, Jose walked in laid loudly, intentionally, and headed straight for the front pew. He was wearing the smug smile that immediately made my stomach sink. My mom, who remarried his dad, leaned over and whispered, "Just ignore him. Don't let him ruin this." But that was easier said than done. Halfway through the ceremony, Jose coughed loudly and said, "Funny how we're all gathered here celebrating when some people aren't being honest about their past." Everyone froze. Carla's face went pale. My best man, Daniel, shot up and hissed, "Jose, sit the F*** down." But Jose wasn't done. He stood up, straightened his tie, and said, "No, they need to know. You think you can treat people like garbage and just walk into your happy ending? Not today, brother." I swear, the entire church went silent except for the echo of his voice. I felt like the floor was giving way under me. And that was just the beginning. The silence in that church was deafening. I could hear Carla's breathing quicken and my palms started sweating like I'd just run a marathon. Everyone's eyes were on Jose, waiting for his next move. "Jose," I said through clenched teeth, trying to keep my cool, "this is not the time." But Jose just smirked and raised his voice so everyone could hear. "No, this is exactly the time. Since when do you get to play the perfect groom? You think you're better than everyone because you've got your little business, your new house, your shiny bride, but you forgot who you step on to get here." My uncle Miguel muttered, "Jesus Christ, not today," and my mom put her head in her hands. Carla whispered, "What is he talking about?" Her voice trembled. That cut me deeper than anything because in that moment I knew Jose wasn't just there to embarrass me. He wanted to make Carla question everything. The officiant awkwardly cleared his throat, trying to regain control. Perhaps we should have. But Jose wasn't letting go. He pulled out his phone and waved it around like a weapon. "I have the receipts," he said. "I have the emails, the texts, all of it. You want to marry this man, fine. But don't say I didn't warn you when the truth comes out." At that point, Daniel, my best man, got up and grabbed Jose's arm. "You need to leave now." Jose yanked free and shouted, "Don't touch me, you little lapo." His voice echoed through the church, and a couple of kids in the pew started crying. My dad's face turned red with rage, and he stormed up the aisle, yelling, "Enough, you're ruining this for everyone." Jose looked straight at me and said, almost calmly, "You ruined this for me a long time ago. Today's just me returning the favour." Carla stepped back from me slightly, clutching a bouquet like a shield. "What does he mean? What is he talking about?" And here's the kicker, I genuinely didn't know. I had no idea what Jose had on his phone or what the truth he was talking about. The only thing I knew for sure was that he was hell-bent on making me look like the villain. I tried to speak, but my voice cracked. "Carla, please, don't listen to him. He's doing this because he hates me, that's it." But she wasn't convinced. I could see doubt written all over her face. My stomach dropped, because Jose had already won in a way he'd planted the seed. The guests were whispering now, heads turning, some people even pulling out their phones to record. My dream wedding was unravelling in real time, and Jose was standing there like the puppet master pulling every string. And then he dropped the bomb. He said, "Ask him about Sophia." The name hit me like a punch in the gut. The entire church went dead silent when Jose said Sophia. My heart literally skipped a beat. Sophia, my late father's old assistant. She had been a minor character in my life. Nothing scandalous, nothing worth mentioning, but Jose somehow twisted it into a weapon. Carla looked at me with wide eyes, and I could see the doubt creeping in. Who's Sophia?" she whispered. I swallowed hard. She was just an old family friend," I stammered. "Nothing else, really." Jose laughed low, bitter, and calculated. "Really?" He waved his phone again. "Because I have pictures, you know, the kind people send when they're thinking about someone else on the side." I felt my stomach drop. People were leaning in, whispering to each other. My uncle Miguel muttered, "Oh no, he's going to drag this out." My mom looked like she was about to faint, and my dad was gripping his chair like it was going to save the situation. "Jose," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "this is insane. You're lying. You've been lying to everyone your whole life. Don't start here." But Jose ignored me. Instead, he played a video on his phone. The screen was bright enough that people in the first few rows could see, and it showed me at a charity event last year, talking and laughing with Sophia. That was it. Innocent conversation, nothing scandalous. But Jose narrated over it in this dramatic voice. Look at him, smiling, cozying up. Meanwhile, he's telling everyone he's faithful and perfect. Who's he fooling? Carla gasped audibly. I felt my hand shake. I wanted to grab the phone and smash it. "That's not what it looks like," I shouted. "You're trusting it." Jose shrugged, a smug, victorious little shrug. "Trusting? No, I'm just showing the truth. People deserve to know who they're marrying." Daniel lunged toward him again, but my dad stopped him with a firm hand. "No, let him speak. This ends today, one way or another." Jose smiled, soaking it all in. He turned to Carla. See, you're not the only one with secrets in this family, but today, I get to balance the scales. I could feel the heat rising in my face. I wanted to shout, to beg, to throw Jose out, but I realized something in that moment. My panic was giving him power. Every second I hesitated, every time I stuttered, he grew stronger in front of everyone. Then I noticed the guests filming everything. My dream wedding, now a viral spectacle in the making. The music was still playing faintly in the background, but it sounded like a cruel joke. And the worst part? Carla wasn't looking at me anymore. She was looking at Jose, uncertain, confused, scared. I took a deep breath. Something had to give. I realized in that moment that standing there frozen wasn't going to help me. If I wanted to salvage anything, my marriage, my dignity, I had to act. My hands were trembling, but I forced myself to take a step forward, directly into her safe space. Enough, I said, my voice louder than I thought possible. You want to play this game, fine, but I'm not letting you ruin my wedding to satisfy some grudge from 15 years ago. Jose raised an eyebrow, clearly enjoying the show. No, I'm not ruining your wedding, he said. I'm revealing the truth. That's different. I lunged for the phone, trying to grab it from his hands. He dodged, and the device clattered to the floor. The video paused, but the damage was done. Guests were whispering, some were filming, and a few were even gasping audibly. My mom rushed forward, trying to calm the storm. Jose, stop this now, she shouted. You're embarrassing yourself and the entire family. Jose smirked and bothered. Funny, isn't it? How suddenly everyone cares about my behavior, but I was always the scapegoat. The problem today is payback. That's when Daniel stepped in, his face red with anger. You want payback? Fine, but not like this. You're crossing a line. Touch my brother one more time and I swear. He trailed off, glaring at Jose. Jose laughed. Threat? Really? You think that will stop me? I could feel my pulse racing. The officiant looked like he wanted to crawl under the altar. Carla was clutching my arm, visibly shaking. And that's when I realized I had to turn this situation around, and quickly. I stepped closer to the gathered crowd, took a deep breath, and addressed them. Everyone, listen, what Jose is showing you isn't scandalous. It's a twisted version of innocent moments. He's trying to paint me as a villain for reasons that have nothing to do with today. Jose scoffed, muttering something about nobody believing me. I ignored him and continued. Jose has a history of stirring up drama, of creating chaos for attention, and he's doing it now at my wedding. Look at the video he showed you. That's me smiling at a friend, nothing more. And if anyone here thinks otherwise, I'm happy to explain personally, but I will not let one person ruin this day. There was a pause. Some guests nodded slowly. A few looked skeptical, but the tide was turning. Carla squeezed my hand. Thank you, she whispered. Jose's smug smile faltered. Do you think that changes anything? He snapped. I stepped forward, putting my hands on his shoulders firmly. It changes everything. You want revenge? Fine, but it won't come at the cost of my happiness or my marriage. You've had your moment and I'll leave. He glared, clearly trying to hold on to control. But before he could argue, my dad joined me, standing tall. Jose, enough. You've had your say. Now get out, or I will personally make sure you leave. Jose hesitated, tension written all over his face. Finally, he snatched his phone and stormed out, muttering under his breath. The church seemed to exhale collectively. Carla wrapped her arms around me, and for the first time in what felt like hours, I felt a glimmer of relief. But deep down, I knew Jose wasn't done. This was just round one. We thought the worst was over once Jose stormed out of the church, but oh no, he had saved the juiciest part of his revenge for later, the reception. We moved to a gorgeous garden venue for the after party, very light strewn across the trees, tables adorned with flowers, champagne flowing, and music playing. Everything screamed celebration. I was trying to calm Carla down, reassuring her that the wedding wasn't ruined, when my phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. Hope you enjoy the first dance. I wouldn't get too comfortable. I felt my stomach drop. Somehow, Jose had found a way to insert himself into the reception. I glanced around nervously, scanning the crowd. Everyone seemed oblivious, laughing, chatting, but I couldn't shake the feeling that he was lurking somewhere. And sure enough, halfway through our first dance, the lights flickered. Just a brief blackout, but it was enough to make the music cut off mid-song. A few guests laughed nervously, but then the sound system crackled back to life, and a video started playing on the big screen. Jose's handiwork, no doubt. It was him, narrating over clips from my life, my college graduation, business launches, family vacations. Innocent footage, but he had edited it in a way that made it look like a compilation of betrayals, mistakes, and lies. He even threw in some text overlays, like who really cares about family, and watch closely, the truth hurt. Carla froze. I could see the colour drain from her face. My mom gasped audibly. Daniel stormed toward the screen, yelling, Jose, this is harassment. Jose's voice came from somewhere near the back of the garden, amplified through hidden speakers. Did you think I'd let this day pass without my part? Think again, smile, everyone, it's showtime. I felt like the floor had opened beneath me. Guests were whispering, pulling out phones, filming. My wedding was turning into a live spectacle of humiliation. I grabbed Carla's hand. Don't look at it, none of this is true. He's manipulating everything. But then Jose, ever the dramatic, had the audacity to appear at the edge of the dance floor, holding a champagne glass. He raised it, smirking like a villain from a movie. To honesty, he shouted. I could feel my rage boiling over, but I had to stay strategic. I turned to the DJ. Got the video, now. The DJ hesitated, clearly intimidated, but finally obeyed. The screen went black, and the room quieted, tension thick enough to choke on. I walked toward Jose, voice cold but controlled. This ends tonight. If you try anything else, I swear, I will have you escorted out and never let you near our family event again. He tilted his head, his smile fading. You think you can stop me? This is just the beginning. My dad stepped in beside me, towering over Jose. No, son, tonight ends the way I say, leave now. Finally, with one last glare, Jose turned and stormed out of the reception. The garden was silent for a moment, then murmurs filled the air as guests tried to process what had just happened. Carla clung to me, whispering, I thought he was telling the truth. I held her close. He's lying, always has, always will, and tonight, we didn't let them win. After Jose stormed out of the reception for the second time, the atmosphere was heavy. Yes was still murmuring, trying to make sense of what had happened, while Carla and I retreated to a quiet corner near the garden fountain. She was still shaking, and I felt the weight of guilt pressing on me. Even though I knew Jose was lying and manipulating, part of me wondered if his vendetta had some hidden truth we'd overlooked. My dad came over, his face tight with anger and disappointment. "I can't believe he did that on your wedding day. That's unforgivable." "I know," I said, rubbing my face. "But it's not just me, it's Carla, our family. He tried to drag everyone into his mess." My mom, still in tears, chimed in. "We've been enabling him for too long. He's always had a chip on his shoulder, but we never took it seriously. Maybe that's why he thinks he can just ruin things like this." Daniel, ever the protector, appeared beside us. "We need to make sure he can't do this again. No more surprises, no more videos, no more drama. He crossed every line tonight." Carla wrapped her arms around me tightly. I was terrified, she whispered. I didn't know what to believe. I kissed her forehead. Jose thrives on chaos. The moment we reacted with fear, he felt powerful, but he doesn't get to control our lives, not today, not ever. As the evening wore on, we tried to salvage the celebration. Some guests stayed, others left quietly, still uneasy. The caterers were kind enough to resume the music and the dinner service, but the shadow of Jose's sabotage lingered. I realized that even though the wedding was technically over, the emotional damage hadn't gone away. Later, my dad pulled me aside. "We need to confront him, not in anger, but to make sure this vendetta ends. You can't live in fear of him popping up at every family event." I nodded reluctantly. "You were right, but I want to do it carefully. He's unstable." We decided to meet Jose the next day at a neutral location, a quiet cafe in town. I knew he was expecting me to come with hostility, so I had to think strategically. The goal wasn't to fight or humiliate him in return, it was to set boundaries and reclaim control. When we finally sat across from him, the smugness was gone. He was tense, wary, and I realized he didn't fully expect us to remain calm. I spoke slowly, choosing my words with care. "Jose, yesterday was out of line. I don't know why you've held on to so much anger, but it ends now. We're a family. Whether you like it or not, you have to stop sabotaging our lives." He scoffed, but there was a flicker of vulnerability in his eyes. "You think it's that simple?" "No," I said. "But if you want a relationship with this family, you have to choose peace. If you don't, you're on your own." For the first time in years, I felt like I'd gained a measure of control. Jose left the cafe without another word, and while I didn't know if he'd honor the truce, I finally felt like we'd drawn a line. Carla held my hand as we walked back to the car. "You handled him perfectly," she said softly. "I'm proud of you." I smiled, exhausted but relieved. "It's not over," I admitted. "But for now we survived, that's what matters." The days after the wedding were surreal. The chaos Jose had caused still lingered in conversations and gossip, but slowly, the dust began to settle. Carla and I spent hours talking, processing, and reassuring each other that what Jose tried to do couldn't define our relationship. We also had long talks with our families. My mom, exhausted but determined, apologized to Carla publicly for letting Jose's behavior affect the day. My dad was more pragmatic. "We will handle him. He can't keep using the family like this. We set boundaries now." Interestingly, confronting Jose seemed to have an unexpected effect. He didn't reach out again for several weeks, and while we weren't naive enough to think he was gone forever, there was a noticeable absence of hostility. It was almost like the confrontation had snapped him out of his revenge spiral, at least temporarily. My relationship with Carla grew stronger through all of it. Surviving Jose's drama together forced us to rely on each other more deeply. We even laughed about the absurdity of it once the initial tension faded. I never thought our first dance would be a public shaming. Carla joked one night, and for the first time, we could breathe and smile genuinely. I also started noticing how much I had underestimated the impact of Jose's resentment not just on me, but on the entire family. My mom and dad began implementing clearer boundaries, ensuring that Jose couldn't manipulate family events or dynamics in the future. We even had a long, tense family meeting where everyone agreed on how to handle potential conflicts with him going forward. The healing wasn't instant. Some relatives were still uncomfortable, whispering about that wedding disaster in hushed tones. But over time, the family began to reorient itself around positive connections rather than fear of Jose's next move. As for Jose, I don't know what he's planning next. But I do know this, we survived his sabotage. We didn't let him control the narrative, and more importantly, we didn't let him destroy our happiness. Every time I see Carla smile, I'm reminded that the chaos he tried to unleash wasn't stronger than the love and trust we share. The wedding may have been marred by drama, but it also became a turning point, a lesson in resilience, boundaries, and the power of staying calm under pressure. It showed me who truly supports us, and who thrives on destruction. Now, when I look back, I don't just remember the fear and chaos. I remember the family pulling together, the moments of courage, and the quiet triumph of holding on to what truly matters despite someone else's vendetta. And while Jose remains a part of our lives, his power over us has diminished. We've reclaimed our happiness. The wedding wasn't perfect, but in surviving the sabotage, we gained something stronger: clarity, unity, and the knowledge that revenge, no matter how calculated, can't break a bond built on love and trust.